Welcome to another episode of Bearcats Mean Business, a new podcast from the University of Cincinnati's Carl H. Lindner College of Business. My name is Grant Freaking, Manager of College Communications and Marketing at Lindner. Today's topic, admissions and applying to Lindner and UC. We're here to address the worries, concerns, and questions that prospective students and their parents or guardians may have about the college admissions process. Luckily for our listeners, our two guests are eminently qualified to address these topics. One of my guests is Melissa Baer, Lindner's Director of Undergraduate Enrollment. Melissa has 20 years of experience working in college admissions at both public and private universities and is nearing her 10-year anniversary working at the University of Cincinnati. Welcome, Melissa.
Thanks, Grant. I'm excited to be here today.
We are also joined by Riley Higgins, a second-year Lindner Business Honors student majoring in marketing and international business. Riley is a Cincinnati native, a PACE leader, and a Lindner ambassador who also participates in Lindner Women in Business, UC Pickleball Club, and ICATS. Welcome, Riley.
Thanks for having me, Grant.
Melissa, we will begin with you. Can you explain to our listeners the purpose and mission of your job and how you help prospective students navigate the application process?
Sure. When talking to families and students about admissions and the work that we do, I always like to start with the title of admissions counselor. I think one of the big misunderstandings from families is that my role, my team, our job is akin to sales. It's not. It's very much more akin to counseling, supporting students, answering questions, helping students and families find the right fit for their student. And fit is a very, very personal thing to each and every student and each and every family. One of the ways that we try to express that authenticity in the Lindner College of Business is by associating our prospective students with our current students. And that means that we're providing those authentic experiences. Yes, I receive a paycheck from the Lindner College of Business. Riley, for example, does not. So when she talks to students and families, we really expect that it is that authentic exchange and students and parents can find those opportunities to engage and find fit. And that's really important to me and my team in the work that we do.
What's sort of the immediate feedback you get from prospective students and their parents when that exchange with a current student happens?
It's a lot of enthusiasm. First of all, our students are amazing. I hope that everyone learns that today about Riley, and I think she's a perfect picture of a Lindner student. So when parents and students talk to us after the fact, they are in awe of our students and in awe of the idea that that is who their student can become, right? So this idea of, okay, in 2 years, my student's going to have had a cooperative education experience. They're going to have gotten involved in all of these campus activities. There may be going to be a student who's standing up here giving this presentation in a couple of years. I will say that some families will say, whoa, my student is not that. And we go, not yet. Right? It is okay to not be that yet. One of the things that we have tried to do in recent years is to really actively bring younger current Lindner students into our activities. It's very overwhelming to see a fifth-year student who's had 4 co-op rotations, already has their full-time job placement, has graduate classes under their belt. That's very intense for students and families. But when they see a first or a second-year student who is finding their way through that process, they can start to connect to them a little bit more. So I think it's really some parents and students automatically see themselves in that scenario. And some of them need the support of, no, you're going to grow into that. That's just an explanation of the opportunities that you have here.
Perfect. Riley, what made you want to serve as that, mentor for prospective students and, prospective students who you've never met before?
Yeah, when I first came to campus, I was here for a science-related competition in high school. So I didn't even come near the College of Business. In fact, at the time, I don't think our new building had been built yet. So when I did come back actually interested in business, I went to a college close-up presentation. And I had the experience of 2 fifth-year students who were presenting to me about their experiences and their co-ops and their study abroad, which to me, who loves learning Spanish and has a minor in Spanish, I was like, this is exactly what I want to do. So I was one of the people in Melissa's case who saw myself in their shoes, eventually giving the presentation back. And just from honestly, semester one being on campus, it's just you want to look back at the students who I was with in high school and bring them up and show them everything that Lindner has to offer. So that's how I became involved in Lindner Ambassadors, and where I get to present back to students and their parents and families, show them around Lindner, tell them about my experience. And the best part is that the faculty who help establish Lindner Ambassadors have given us hey, don't say that. Hey, don't censor that. They just, give us free rein to share our experiences and share everything that we've been able to accomplish in just a year and a half here.
It's good that they encourage you to be real about the process, because I think parents and prospective students, they can probably see through that inauthentic way of presenting Lindner or any other college that might be doing some sort of similar thing to College Close Up.
It's pretty immediate. Yeah. I mean, just from the other college tours that I had gone on in high school versus the one I got when I specifically came to Lindner, I just immediately recognized the authenticity and passion that the students had.
Building off that, Riley, you're only a few years removed from applying to Lindner and UC, as well as other universities, I'm sure. What do you remember about applying to college, and what was your experience applying to Lindner and UC?
Yeah, I definitely remember it like it was yesterday, because that is a stressful process that I hope I don't have to go through again if I, choose to go to graduate school. But I was a bit of a unique case. I had looked at all of my options, and I was between studying journalism or maybe medical field, maybe business. I wasn't sure, what the right path was for me. And UC was actually the only in-state school I applied to, which is rare for students in Cincinnati. In this area, we typically apply to several in-state schools. But when I had seen what the Lindner program had to offer, I knew that if I was going to stay in state, it was UC all the way. Just all the things that they had to offer were undeniably where I wanted to be. So I had also applied to a few out-of-state colleges, my reach schools, all these things. And I actually didn't end up even hearing back from those schools, because their, application process is where you would hear back in April. But I had heard back in January and February from UC, and I committed that week that I had heard back, because I knew this is where I wanted to be. But I just remember being really confused, because there's so many options on the table, and you have to write all these essays, and you have to figure out why exactly you want to apply to this college. So for UC's application process, specifically, I remember that there was one essay that was really straightforward. It was, why do you want to study business at UC? And I was like, oh, this is perfect. I can tell you exactly why I want to do that. So I just really made sure to think about why UC could provide me with the opportunities I needed to get what I wanted out of a college experience.
Right. And Melissa, an essay question like that is broad intentionally, correct? It's to pinpoint the personal experience of the applicant.
Right. So we're a little unique here at UC as a direct admit institution, which when students are looking at colleges and universities, they'll see a difference between schools that are saying, do you want to enroll at the University of Cincinnati in general, or do you want to enroll specifically in the Lindner College of Business at the University of Cincinnati? So that major specific question is really trying to target what a student's experiences and backgrounds have been in regards to their academic interests, and really allow them to have a space. It's a 250-word personal statement. It's not intense, but it really is an opportunity for students to share their background and their interests.
And it also forces them to be concise, right? With a perhaps a longer word count, there's a bit of a propensity perhaps for rambling or lack of focus, but you really get to know. And also it helps you churn through the thousands of applications, right?
Yeah. So we have both the Common App essay, which is 600 words, which is the same essay that you would send to any Common App school you would apply to. So in that essay, you don't get to talk about UC in particular. And if you do talk about UC, they're going to send that sentence about UC to all of the other schools that you apply to. So that personal statement requires that tight timeline, but an opportunity also for a student to elaborate what they know about themselves and the university in that place. That personal statement just comes to us at UC and does allow us to dive a little bit deeper into the application, who the student is and what they're looking for.
Melissa, let's stay on the topic of prospective students. When you have a chance to talk with potential future students at Lindner, as well as their parents or guardians, what are common questions that you hear from them?
The common questions really depend on two things. The first is where the student is in their search process and where we are in the application timeline. So if we sort of start at the beginning with the hope that we have a high school junior in the spring of their junior year that's coming to visit us, that student is hopefully talking about, how do I become the most competitive candidate? What classes am I taking? A little plug here, we are always going to say that a student should remain on a calculus trajectory, and happy to share more about that. But students are asking about those pieces of the equation earlier in their process. But as they move through, it starts to become things like, when will I find out about my decision? When will I find out about my financial aid? How do I get a more personalized visit? What opportunities are there for scholarships? So it really is this kind of ebb and flow of the process. We are just a few days away from our 2024 decision release date. So those decisions will be releasing on January 22nd for students to find out whether or not they have been admitted to the university. And that really opens up the what next set of questions for prospective students. So we're excited to go through that transition here in the next couple of days.
It's exciting time and a busy time for you, Melissa. Riley, during your application process, and you touched on this a little bit already, but let's expand upon it. What were the attributes that you were looking for in a future college or university or a business school?
Yeah, definitely. I was looking for a place, first and foremost, that I could call home. I knew that I wanted to be comfortable, but also wanted to have a place that would challenge me to grow. And that was what I found here at Lindner. I just observed the community when I was here, just naturally on a building tour. And it was where the ambassadors who were taking us on the building tour are talking to the faculty in the hallway, and people are saying, hey. And I just realized that the culture here, the community was really strong. And it's something that we actually highlight in our college close-up presentations with the ambassadors. Is one of our points of distinction is the community that we have. So it really stood out to me. And that's something that I was looking for. And then I also wanted a smaller college campus, experience with Lindner and the College of Business, but on the big university of the University of Cincinnati. So there's so many resources available because we're on such a big campus. In my opinion, it's a big campus, but clearly there's much bigger. Mm-hmm. But it's navigable, and there's things here that I'm able to keep myself entertained. And I also get to come to the same building for my classes and really hammer down and get my work done.
Sure. And during these visits, we hammer home our mission and our values to students. What were some of those things, maybe specifically related to experiential learning and co-op, things like that sort of stuck out to you and resonated with you during the application process and maybe helped drive you towards a decision?
Yeah. It's something so unique is the experiential learning outlook on education. Coming from high school when you're pretty much just reading textbooks and getting PowerPoints, you really have to have a frame shift in your mindset of what it means to learn and what that looks like for a business student. And experiential learning goes so well with our curriculum because it's in our classrooms. And then after our classroom educational period, we go to our clubs where we're doing consulting work and we're implementing the things that we're learning almost immediately. And so you're not only growing in the classroom, but in your extracurricular work with clubs that you're a part of. And then you get to go to this co-op experience, which for me was after my second semester. So it was the summer after my first year of college. I got to work for a bank doing marketing strategy, which is exactly what I wanted to get experience in. And we always call it test driving your major. Right. And yeah, and it's the perfect way to summarize exactly what you're doing. It's not locking you down into a full-time position where there's a little bit more responsibility and expectation, but you're with a company who often is local and helping you figure out what you want to do with your career. What you don't like is just as important as what you do like. So that was really attractive to me as far as figuring out, the value of my education. When I graduate in 4 years, I want to be able to say that it was worth every penny. So I wanted to really figure out what I wanted to do with the rest of my life.
No pressure, right?
No pressure, but a good support system will make it happen.
Right. And it's stories like this, Melissa, to help, this is not what we're, you're not a salesperson, as you said earlier, but Riley's an exemplar of what we can hold up and say, this is what's possible, right? But you can also go at your own pace. And I think that's important to convey to parents and students who are likely, and probably more than likely, overwhelmed at the process as they're trying to usher in a 17, 18-year-old young adult into a brand new world.
Right. So Riley's an example of a student who like has her foot on the gas pedal and she's like ready to go and she's goal driven and she's like, I'm going to milk this for everything that I can. Right. That's not every single student that comes into the college business. And that's perfectly fine. So I think it's important always from our lens to support stories like Riley's by saying it's the faculty and staff, it's your academic advisor, it's your career advisor, it's the requirements of the college that are going to support a student who's less likely to put their foot on the gas pedal and finding out what's next. So there are those little points in the process, just like in high school or just like in a degree pathway in college, where it's sort of like, okay, it's time, little birdie, it's time to go find a co-op and we're going to support you in doing that. And it's going to feel uncomfortable. And that's okay, right? This is another opportunity in life for students to have those I don't want to say failures, but there is a sense of an opportunity to fail with a safety net, right? Going out to the career fair in the fall of your freshman year and realizing that nobody wants to hire you because you're basically still a high school student, right? But you still get that opportunity under your belt of handing out your resume and shaking people's hands. And for some students, that comes easy. I'm guessing for Riley, it did. And for some students, it's really, really painful, but it's a part of that learning process, and that is A-okay.
No,
Yeah,
I will tell you. I mean, it is. You really hit the ground running. I will say Lindner's first year experience is top tier because of that. They take you, and you might feel like uncomfortable your first couple of days, but the community that surrounds you, the resources that are available to you, you're able to achieve so much more within 1 month of being here than you ever thought possible. So I mentor 11 first-year students as a PACE leader. And so I got to see it this year now on the other side of, dragging them through their first couple of weeks and being like, okay, time to, learn how to do an interview. Welcome to college, essentially. And just seeing their growth throughout the first semester and then seeing them now going into their second semester, they're almost a different person. They have grown so much. And I think that's an amazing thing to be able to accomplish in one semester.
Right. And I've sat in on a lot of those sessions that you have led, and they've been led by company representatives who sit on those FYE sessions. Even coming in and, 3 or 4 months down the road, that's the less anxiousness, less nervousness. I mean, of course, everyone's still nervous. I get up nervous talking in front of people still.
100%.
But it's the comfort level, not only with their classmates and collaboration, but also the subject matter that once they've acquitted themselves, they're like, oh, this isn't too daunting. I can go ahead and do this. I'm on my path to being, as we say, a business problem solver, right?
Yeah.
Melissa, let's walk listeners through a typical admission cycle for a prospective student. You just mentioned that you are hitting one of your benchmark dates in your office. From the time a student receives marketing collateral to the time they apply, what's that sort of time frame look like?
Yeah. And I want to address this first by saying one of the things that we're seeing from students is a concern about sharing their information or opting into marketing campaigns. And I absolutely understand that. I know what all 4 of my email inboxes look like. I have one that was like supposed to be for coupons and stuff, and one that was personal. And then I have my work, and then I have another one that I started for funsies. But I encourage students to embrace that opportunity. Start an email address that's just for your college search process. Maybe share access with that to your parents, because sharing your information means we can talk to you about who we are. We can tell you what the opportunities are to get to know us. We're seeing a rise in students entering our funnel at the time of application, which means we've had no contact with them until they apply. And I think students who choose that route are less informed when they come to us. So really the hope, and to answer your question, is a student could start getting marketing collateral from us in the spring of their junior year of high school. Really kind of that introduction to who we are. And what their timeline and process could look like. That's ideal. That is also the point in which most high school students are going to be pursuing resume workshops, essay workshops, getting to know their common application, and really building out their application materials so that when the Common App does open on August 1st of a student's senior year of high school, right, generally right before you start your senior year, you're ready to apply. But that means to be the most competitive candidate that you can, you need a short list. I've seen that short list run anywhere from 1 school to 20 schools. Neither of those ends are the right answer, but really making sure that students have the information and knowledge to have a list that works well for them so that they can apply before the deadlines of their respective schools, which for Lindner and the University of Cincinnati is December 1 of your senior year.
That's an important date for all of us to remember.
Very important.
Riley, based on your experiences with what Melissa just talked about, what are some recommendations you would offer a prospective student in navigating the college application process?
Yeah, I actually, over the holidays, was just talking with my cousins about this because they're juniors in high school. They're going through the process of trying to figure out, first of all, what they want to do, and second of all, where they want to do it. So I was just telling them to find a place that will encourage them to grow and a place that cares about them and can give them the resources that they need to achieve their goals. Because I think at the bottom line, that's what's most important. I know when I was looking at colleges, I was thinking about things like, do I like the campus? Do I like the dorms? Do I like the food? Some of the details when you're comparing, it's just like apples to apples. I'm like, campuses will all have food and campuses will all have dorms for you to live in and something like that. But I just, you have to look at the resources and the quality of students that were coming out of that college and for what you're specifically trying to study. If you're not sure if you want to go into business or something else, then, find a college that's going to be able to support you no matter what you choose and be a place where you can grow and feel comfortable doing that. So that's the biggest advice that I can give is when you're searching for colleges, try not to get lost in the glitz and glamour of everything and instead really look at the details of what you're getting out of the education that you're buying. So it is important to look at that as well as the financial aspect of what makes most sense in 4 years' time when you go to get a career. Do you want to look back and say that was totally worth it? That's also really important.
Right. I'm sure our listeners will find that extremely helpful. Thank you for sharing that. Melissa, let's tie a bow on this episode with dispelling some of the biggest myths around the college admissions process and then a handful of must-know dates for applicants that relate to Lindner and UC.
Yeah, let's start with some myths. I will hang my hat on 3 myths that I think really confuse parents and students about this process. The first one is that admissions is exceptionally overly competitive and my student will never get in. Your student, whomever they are, will have plenty of options for higher education and plenty of options to move towards their goals. I'll use Lindner as an example. We admit about 72% of our incoming first-year students directly to their major, but we enroll almost another equal amount of students in their second year as transition students. So they come to the University of Cincinnati either not having been admitted directly to business or having started someplace else. They just really kind of have to stay on their path here and take their math classes, and then they can come on over to the College of Business. It's really about us and other institutions wanting to be sure that your students are going to be successful. The second myth that I think is incredibly important for everyone to understand is the price versus cost myth. The sticker price on higher education is very high, and it can be daunting for a lot of families, especially first-generation families. I strongly encourage students not to discount an institution on price right out the gate. I was a first-gen college student with what's a 0 EFC student, so I came from a low socioeconomic background. My most reasonable institution was a private institution that actually had the highest sticker price of any of the institutions that I applied to. This is not to say that we're negotiating price or like this is a car lot. It's really that the way institutions use their financial aid dollars, either merit-based scholarships or need-based scholarships, is very different. And you kind of have to put your name in the hat in all these different institutions to know what you're going to get. And then the third one isn't really so much a myth that I'll say. It's just a mixture of making sure that students are exploring the differences between public and private institutions. There are merits to both sides of the equation. There are a lot of differences and similarities, but I think that it's important for students and families not to write one or the other off in the very beginning of their process.
Well, so let's also give our listeners a handful of dates that they should be aware of if they're a student applying for college or if they're a parent perhaps listening that wants to have their student apply for college?
Yeah, the most critical dates in this process are going to be the August 1st of your senior year, the common application opens for the University of Cincinnati and the Lindner College of Business. December 1st is the early action deadline, so greatest consideration for scholarships and admission. Late January is our first decision release date, so January 22nd this year. Mid-February, usually around Valentine's Day, we will release merit-based scholarships. And then May 1st is what's called the National Candidates Reply Date. It is generally late April to early May when you have to confirm your decision or commit to a college or university.
Students and parents, be sure to mark down those important dates. My thanks to Melissa and Riley for joining me today. A friendly reminder that Bearcats Mean Business is available on Spotify, Amazon Music, and YouTube. On the next episode of Bearcats Mean Business, I will be speaking to a member of Lindner Career Services to demystify co-op at Lindner. Go Bearcats.